Have you ever noticed how easy it is for people to control you, without ever touching you? They don't need money. They don't need power. They don't even need status. All they need is your emotions. One word, and you're triggered. One look, and your confidence crumbles. One silence, and suddenly you're doubting yourself. And here's the brutal truth. The second you react, you hand them the keys to your kingdom. That's not an accident. That's conditioning. And most men live their entire lives as emotional slaves without even realizing it. Don't stay silent, it's rude. Always explain yourself. But here's what no one told you. The more predictable your reactions, the easier you are to control. This is why manipulators win. This is why weak leaders get crushed. This is why some men spend their lives being played in relationships, in business, in friendships. They're not living. They're being programmed. Have you ever found yourself reacting to someone's words before you even realized what was happening? That split second where your emotions took control and you said or did something you immediately regretted. If you're not in your head, you're not alone. This is the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is a knee-jerk, unconscious reflex driven by your emotions. It's an involuntary outburst, a primal, survival-based instinct that's been deliberately programmed into you since childhood. When you react, you hand over your power to another person, becoming a puppet on their strings. In contrast, a response is a conscious, calculated action. It's the pause between a stimulus and your action, a moment where you choose your words and behavior with surgical precision. This is where your true power lies. The ancient political philosopher Niccolò Machiavelli understood this, noting that, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. He meant that a disciplined mind is your most powerful weapon, but if left untrained, it can be dangerous to the one wielding it. The law of cold reaction. In a world where outrage has become currency, the person who masters their internal state holds an almost supernatural advantage. This is what I call the law of cold reaction. The colder your response, the greater your power. This isn't about becoming emotionless or cold. It's about developing strategic emotional intelligence, the ability to feel everything but be controlled by nothing. While others flinch at harsh words and crumble under pressure, the person who has learned to respond rather than react moves through life with a different kind of power. They understand that their first emotional response is just information, not instruction. Every time you react emotionally, you're essentially telling others which buttons to push to get the response they want. You become predictable, manageable, and ultimately powerless. But when you learn to operate from the law of cold reaction, you transform from someone who can be easily manipulated into someone who chooses their responses with strategic intent. This makes you unsettling yet magnetic to those around you because they sense a quiet strength that they cannot comprehend or break. The power of strategic silence. The loudest person in the room is almost always the weakest. The person who must raise their voice has already lost the war of perception. The true players in any situation operate differently. They move in silence, watching, absorbing, and collecting information while others expose themselves through emotional outbursts. This is the power of strategic silence. When someone is desperately trying to provoke a reaction, and you respond with calm silence or even a slight smile, something profound happens. They expected a fight, and instead, they encounter a wall of composed stillness that reflects their chaos back at them. Most people are so uncomfortable with silence that they'll fill it with their own revelations, exposing their true motivations, fears, and strategies. This silence isn't weakness, it's power under intense pressure. You're not being passive, you're being patient. You're engaged in intense reconnaissance, studying behavioral patterns and mapping psychological weaknesses. This strategic delay gives you a tremendous psychological advantage. It's the difference between being a reactive match that burns out quickly and a controlled fuse that builds pressure for maximum, deliberate impact. The mirror technique. One of the most sophisticated weapons in psychological warfare is the mirror technique. This approach works because people fear their own reflection more than they fear external threats. When you learn to reflect someone's behavior, energy, and emotional state back to them while revealing nothing of your own internal world, you create a deeply uncomfortable psychological experience. They are essentially forced to confront their own patterns, insecurities, and motivations without the comfort of understanding yours. This creates a psychological vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. They will try harder and harder to get a reaction from you, but when you remain unreadable, neutral, and still, they begin to unravel under the weight of their own reflection. You are not fighting, arguing, or defending yourself, you are simply reflecting their energy back to them while maintaining complete composure. This process is so subtle that most people don't even realize it's happening. Machiavelli understood that information is power, and powerful people protect their advantages rather than broadcasting them to the world. By mastering this technique, you become a gray man, operating in the shadows and gathering intelligence while others expose themselves. This allows you to navigate complex situations from a position of profound strength. Strategic delay and controlled intensity. What most people completely misunderstand about power is the relationship between volume and strength. The loudest person in the room is almost always the weakest. They shout because they lack the presence to naturally draw attention, broadcasting their insecurity to everyone. In contrast, true power is a cold, calculated, and strategic force that operates differently. It's the difference between being a reactive match that flares up and burns out quickly, and a controlled fuse that burns slowly, quietly, and with deliberate intensity. While others waste their energy on immediate emotional discharge, a strategist builds pressure and gathers intelligence, preparing for maximum impact when the moment is right. This isn't about being slow, it's about strategic delay. The person who controls when things happen holds a tremendous psychological advantage. Society has conditioned us to believe that immediate response equals strength, but the reality is quite different. The ability to sit with discomfort and uncertainty, gathering information before acting, demonstrates a level of self-mastery that most people never develop. When you implement strategic delay, you begin seeing opportunities and solutions that were invisible in reactive mode. You make better decisions because you're not acting from a place of emotional urgency, but from a position of calm analysis. Emotional alchemy. The goal isn't to suppress or eliminate your emotions. That's neither healthy nor sustainable. Instead, you learn the art of emotional alchemy, transforming raw feeling into strategic advantage. When anger arises, you don't explode, you study it like a scientist. What triggered this response? What information is it providing about the situation? How can this energy be channeled into focused action? When hurt surfaces, you don't broadcast your pain, you learn to disguise it, using that vulnerability as motivation for strategic positioning. When fear appears, you don't retreat, you sharpen it into heightened alertness and better preparation. This process turns what most people experience as weakness into sources of power and insight. It leads to a profound form of freedom that most people never experience. When you stop needing to be liked by everyone, you become immune to manipulation. When you stop fearing loss, you become immune to threats. When you stop craving external validation, you become immune to betrayal. This emotional independence allows you to make decisions that align with your authentic values and long-term objectives, not immediate emotional impulses. The unreadable fortress. When you develop this level of emotional mastery, you become an enigma. People who are used to reading others through their emotional reactions find they can't get a rise out of you. This makes you unreadable, unpredictable, and fundamentally unbreakable. This isn't about being intimidating, it's about being unsettling. By removing predictable responses, you become a psychological puzzle that disrupts their sense of control over social dynamics. The most dangerous weapon is not aggression but the mirror technique. This sophisticated tool works because people fear their own reflection. When you reflect their behavior and energy back to them while revealing nothing of your own internal world, they are forced to confront their own patterns. This creates a psychological vacuum that they feel compelled to fill, often revealing their true character and motivations. It's an elegant form of psychological warfare where you win not by fighting, but by remaining a neutral, reflective surface. This journey is about building an invisible fortress around your internal world. Every time you choose not to react emotionally, you are constructing another layer of psychological armor. You become a strategist who operates from a higher logic, turning every provocation into a source of valuable data. That's an excellent question, and it gets to the heart of the matter. The first and most crucial step is to create a pause. We're all so wired for immediate reaction that we've lost the space between stimulus and response. This is the space where all true power lives. The first step to becoming a fuse instead of a match is to consciously insert a moment of stillness when you feel an emotional trigger. It sounds simple, but it's a radical act of defiance against a lifetime of conditioning. You don't have to win an argument or deliver a clever comeback in that moment. You just have to do one thing: nothing. When you feel the emotional impulse, the urge to defend yourself, the racing heart, the rush of anger, don't act on it. Instead, take a breath. It could be one deep breath, a 5-second count, or even just the mental repetition of a single word like pause. This isn't about suppressing your feelings, it's about observing them. Acknowledging the emotion without immediately acting on it creates a small but powerful gap. In that gap, you reclaim control. You start to see the situation not as an emergency, but as information. This single act is the foundation of emotional sovereignty. The power of the pause. Think about it like this: your brain's reactive system is a reflex. You can't stop the reflex from starting, but you can interrupt it before it completes its action. The pause is the interruption. Here's how to practice it. When you feel triggered, feel the physical sensation, the heat, the tension, the racing pulse. Recognize it for what it is: a signal, not a command. Take a single, conscious breath. As you breathe in, mentally say, "I am not this reaction." As you breathe out, feel the physical tension start to dissipate. Observe without judgment, watch the emotion as if you're a third party. Okay, there's anger. It's here. I feel it. What is it telling me? Don't try to make it go away or shame yourself for feeling it. Choose your response. After that brief pause, you can now make a conscious choice. Do you still want to say what you were going to say? Or has the information you've gathered given you a more strategic option? This simple act of pausing is the most powerful tool you have. It turns you from a victim of your emotions into a master of your internal state. It's the very first step on the path from being a match to becoming the fuse. What's a specific situation in your life where you could practice this pause and feel the difference for yourself? The second step: deconstructing the trigger. Once you've mastered the pause, the next step is to deconstruct what happened. The pause gives you a vital window of opportunity. Now you must use that time to become an investigator of your own mind. Most people see a trigger as a single event. Someone says a harsh word, and you get angry. But a strategist knows that a single word doesn't hold that power on its own. The trigger isn't the stimulus itself, but the underlying belief or insecurity that the stimulus activated. Think of it this way: a single drop of water can't make the ground crack. It's the thousands of drops that came before it, freezing and expanding over time, that created the weakness. That final drop is just the visible event. The same is true for emotional reactions. The person's comment isn't what made you angry, it just tapped into a long-held insecurity, a fear, or an unresolved past hurt that was already there. To deconstruct the trigger, you have to ask yourself a simple, yet powerful question in that moment of stillness: why did that bother me? Becoming a psychological investigator. This question forces you to look inward. It's an act of radical self-honesty. Instead of blaming the external stimulus, you take ownership of your internal state. Here's how to do it. Identify the raw emotion. Don't just label it anger. Get specific. Was it humiliation? Fear of being disrespected? A feeling of being controlled? Trace it back. Ask yourself, where does this feeling come from? Was this a familiar feeling from childhood? Does it relate to a past relationship? A past failure? Look for the hidden belief. The emotion is the signal, but the hidden belief is the code. For example, if someone's criticism makes you disproportionately angry, the hidden belief might be, I am not good enough, or, my value is tied to others' approval. When you start to see this dynamic, that a trigger isn't the event but the belief it exposed, you fundamentally change your relationship with it. You're no longer fighting the external world, you're doing the internal work. This process transforms you from someone who can be easily manipulated to someone who understands their own psychological vulnerabilities. This knowledge becomes a source of power. You can't be controlled by something you can clearly see and understand. What is one recurring trigger you face, and what is the hidden belief you suspect is behind it? The third step, reframing the narrative. Once you've identified the trigger and deconstructed the hidden belief behind it, the final step is to reframe the narrative. Your emotional reactions are a result of stories you've told yourself for years, often without even realizing it. These stories are the scripts that your reactive mind follows. To become a master of your internal state, you must rewrite these scripts. For example, let's say a critical comment from your boss triggers a reaction of humiliation. Through deconstruction, you might discover the hidden belief is, my work isn't good enough, and I will be exposed as a fraud. This is the old narrative. The reframing process is about consciously replacing that old, harmful story with a new, empowering one. Consciously rewriting your script. This isn't about ignoring reality or engaging in blind optimism. It's about building a more accurate and resilient perspective. The new narrative should be based on a cold, strategic truth. Here's how to do it. Acknowledge the old narrative. Start by consciously stating the old belief. For example, the old story is that my value is tied to my performance, and if someone criticizes me, it's proof that I am a failure. Challenge it with evidence. Ask yourself, is this absolutely true? Look for every piece of evidence to the contrary. Have you succeeded at other things? Are there instances where criticism has led to growth? Remind yourself that a single comment is data, not a complete verdict on your worth. Create the new narrative. Replace the old story with a new, strategic one. The new narrative might be, my boss's criticism is not a reflection of my inherent value. It is simply information about a specific task. I will use this information to improve my skills and demonstrate my competence. This new story is a cold, rational, and empowering one. This final step transforms you from an actor in a script you didn't write to the director of your own life. By consciously choosing your narrative, you choose your response. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotional programming, you are in command of it. What is a new, strategic narrative you could write for a recurring trigger in your life? The fourth step, strategic action and the law of detachment. You've paused, deconstructed the trigger, and reframed the narrative. The final, and most powerful, step is to take strategic action from a place of emotional detachment. This is where you transform all of your internal work into tangible, real-world power. Most people take action from a place of emotional heat. They're so focused on immediate gratification, proving a point, winning an argument, or lashing out, that they miss the bigger picture. Their actions are reactive, desperate, and predictable. But a true strategist's actions are cold and calculated. They are not fueled by the old emotion, but by the new narrative you've created. This is the law of detachment. You're not acting to make yourself feel better, but to achieve a specific, long-term objective. Your actions become a reflection of your strategy, not your feelings. Acting with purpose, not impulse. Think of a chess master. They don't move a piece because they're angry at their opponent. They move a piece to execute a long-term plan, to control the board, and to secure victory. Their every move is purposeful. You must adopt this same mindset. Move from a place of power, not pain. Your action should be proactive, not reactive. Instead of reacting to your boss's criticism by defending yourself, your strategic action might be to calmly ask for specific examples of what they'd like to see improved. This action is rooted in your new narrative, I will use this information to improve my skills, and puts you in a position of control. Embrace controlled coldness. This isn't about being unfeeling, it's about being unreadable. Your strategic action should not give away your emotional state. When you respond to a provocation with a calm, neutral, and precise question, you disarm the other person. They expected an emotional fight, and you've given them a rational, strategic puzzle. This kind of controlled coldness creates a psychological vacuum that others feel compelled to fill, often revealing their own weaknesses in the process. This final step is where you become the fuse. You've harnessed the energy of the initial emotional spark, but you've channeled it through a deliberate, calculated path. Your actions are no longer just a release of pressure, they are a demonstration of your evolved mindset and a tool for your long-term success. By mastering the pause, deconstructing the trigger, reframing the narrative, and taking strategic action, you will fundamentally change the way you navigate the world. You will become a master of your own destiny, immune to the emotional provocations that control everyone else. What is a long-term objective you could pursue with strategic action instead of a reactive response? The fifth step, the unseen transformation. You have mastered the 4 steps. You can pause, deconstruct, reframe, and act strategically. But something more profound begins to happen on a subconscious level, an unseen transformation that others will sense even if they can't articulate it. This is the stage where your internal mastery begins to radiate outward, affecting your relationships, your professional life, and your very presence in the world. This transformation is rooted in the concept of psychological density. Most people are psychologically porous, their emotional state is easily influenced by external events. They are reactive, volatile, and predictable. Their emotions leak out for the world to see, making them easily readable and, therefore, easily manipulated. They are like a cloud of vapor, easily dispersed by a gust of wind. But when you consistently apply these 4 steps, you begin to develop psychological density. You become solid. You are no longer swayed by the winds of emotional provocation. Your energy is not dispersed but contained and directed. This density creates a powerful, almost magnetic presence. People sense that you are a person of substance, someone whose actions are a result of deliberate thought, not impulse. The unspoken language of power. This shift in your psychological density communicates a powerful message without you ever having to say a word. You become unreadable. People who are used to getting a reaction from you will find that their usual tactics no longer work. Their attempts to push your buttons simply bounce off your composed exterior. This creates a powerful sense of uncertainty in them, and as we've discussed, uncertainty is a source of control. You earn respect naturally. When you respond to a volatile situation with calm, measured precision, you demonstrate a level of self-mastery that is rare. People will begin to trust your judgment because they see that it is not clouded by emotion. This earns you respect and influence without you having to fight for it. You become a source of stability. In a chaotic world filled with emotional volatility, you become an anchor. People will be drawn to your calm presence. They will seek your counsel not just for your intelligence, but for your ability to see clearly through the emotional storm. This unseen transformation is the ultimate payoff for your internal work. You're not just winning arguments or handling conflicts, you're building a character of unwavering strength and presence. This strength isn't about being dominant or aggressive, it's about being solid, composed, and in control of your own universe. It is the final stage of your journey from being a match to becoming a fuse. What is one way you've already noticed your developing psychological density affecting your interactions with others? The 6th step, weaponizing strategic calm. You have paused, deconstructed, reframed, acted, and developed psychological density. The final evolution of this process is to move from simply being resilient to actively using your calm as a strategic weapon. This is the difference between a master of self and a master of others. While most people see conflict as a storm to be weathered, a strategist sees it as an opportunity. Your calm isn't just a shield, it's a tool for disarming and influencing those around you. When everyone else is operating in a state of emotional chaos, your stillness becomes a force that compels them to adapt to you. This is the law of compulsion. People are subconsciously drawn to what they don't have, and in a world of emotional volatility, your calm becomes a powerful, almost magnetic, force. The unsettling power of unreactivity. The power of strategic calm lies in its ability to create a profound psychological imbalance in others. When someone tries to provoke you and you refuse to take the bait, their emotional energy has nowhere to go. It doesn't find the emotional reciprocity it expected. This unmet energy creates a sense of psychological discomfort and confusion in them. It disrupts their scripts. People have pre-programmed scripts for how conversations and conflicts should go. When you don't follow the script, you force them to improvise, and in that improvisation, they are far more likely to make mistakes and reveal their true intentions. It forces them to self-reflect. When you respond with calm, their own emotional outburst is reflected back at them without the distraction of your reaction. They are forced to confront their own behavior, which can be deeply unsettling. This is where your silence and composure do more work than any argument ever could. It creates a power vacuum. In the absence of your emotional reaction, a power vacuum is created. The person who remains calm and unreactive is the one who steps in to fill that vacuum, subtly taking control of the direction of the conversation or situation. Your ability to remain calm under fire